Hey you guys, it's Eman, and we are going to be talking about a paranormal story time today that is definitely a true story. So this story time, unlike most story times out there, especially the paranormal ones, does have a happy ending. There's going to be a little bit of play between some demons and jinns and some archangels or angels. I don't know because I wasn't there, but for the purpose of privacy, though, I am going to be switching up the names of the characters in the story. The person that I interviewed to get this story from didn't really want me to use their name nor their relation to me because there are internet sleuths out there, and I'm sure you guys can definitely figure out who this story is about if I give you enough details. And well, they just kind of didn't want all of that attention, so we're not going to give it to them. So this occurred back in 1992, 1993, right over here in Concord, California. This is when this particular family had just moved over from Egypt and came into California itself, and they were still starting out their new life. Now, prior to them coming over, though, the person R, okay, their son had just married person F, okay? So it was still like a shaky kind of relationship, yet back home in Egypt, they all lived in the same community, on the same street, in the same building. So they knew each other ever since birth, but they just have yet to live with one another. And you know how that goes. You might know somebody for a long period of time, and then you actually get married. You move in with them, and then you're like, who the hell did I just marry? Right? It happens. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but once you're married, have you ever figured out that maybe your partner is still a little bit too attached to their mother or father? Well, that's exactly what happened in the same scenario. The person R was still super duper attached to person F's husband, so her son, right? She was kind of that mother that was always super competitive. She was very controlling, manipulative. She wanted things to be a certain way. Like this whole argument for this storyline is over bed sheets. Like, how petty can that be? Bed sheets. Who's the main individual that's running the household? Because, you know, she's head honcho. She is the woman on top. She's the eldest, the elder of the family, if you will. And she was kind of those individuals who would follow up on things. Like, let's say if you cleaned up the kitchen, right after you're done, she would go in there and tell you everything that you did wrong, even though it's spectacular and you can eat right off the counter. Yeah, really nitpicky, really controlling. Now, she wasn't all of these things, but these are the main characteristics as to why this argument started that particular day. So she was a wonderful woman in every kind of way. Any other time, but this was her pet peeve. This is what would get her to go psychotic sometimes. And when you're living under the same house with your in-law, things can get a bit shaky, to say the least. You know what I'm saying? So when person F, who is married to the son of person R, went in, did the bed sheets, she had made the bed, she was cleaning, you know, person R had walked in and seen what she had what she had, like the quality of work basically, and she started nitpicking. She didn't like how person F was cleaning or was making the bed sheets. It was like really weird. Like, who argues about how to make a bed sheet, girl? If it's tucked in, you're good. Unless you're in the military, I get that, but I mean, they weren't in the military, so it was really odd. Now, let's see here. So after making the bed sheet, person R starts going off on a rant. Person S, which is the daughter of person R, was standing there in the room as this whole argument started to ensue. And well, it got kind of nasty. So, so person R started going in, and I mean going in on person F, calling her names, cursing her out, you know, like, you know, that narcissistic type of behavior where it's like you're just belittling, you are going cutthroat, you are telling that individual, you're trying to bring their whole ego and morale down overall, their self-esteem, you're just trying to tear it apart. Like, that's exactly what was going on. So person F, being raised from a particular kind of family, was always taught to never speak badly or back to her elders. So she stood there, she let her continue and keep on going and just come at her, and as she felt herself standing there and boiling, and I'm telling you, like, if this was me, I might have just said something back. But this is why this individual got the reward that she got in the end, because she didn't let her get to her. She stood there, she let her go on and call her every name in the book. She let her talk down to her, and in the midst of all of this, she watched person R's face, demeanor, the way she was, her voice, everything start to change. You know how when people are possessed, sometimes you feel like you're not talking to that individual anymore, like they have checked out? The worst kind of jinns are the ones that can possess another human being. So they can do all kinds of stuff. There's different levels to them. Some are more stronger, some have more powers, and some are just like these little, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Nuisance, right? But there are actual ones that are very dangerous, very evil. They can actually hurt you. And in most paranormal story times where you hear possessions, those are the kind of jinns that are usually there and depicted in those stories. They're the ones that can leave cuts on you. They're the ones that can have you start hallucinating and seeing things. And they like to play with your mind. They like to make you feel like you're going crazy or you're seeing things. Like, you can wake up in the middle of the night and think that, you know, there's a fire in your room, and you start panicking. And like, jinns and demons love to live off of your fear. That's why if you don't believe in them, that's why if you don't pay them any mind, if you've never searched up any of this kind of stuff, you didn't look into it, you don't go to the places where there has been known paranormal activity, etc., etc., they don't mess with you. Because the one thing you can do to a jinn, because they have such huge egos, is to believe that they don't exist. They won't even come near you. So anyways, this jinn in particular, who has been with person R ever since she was 3 years old, 3 years old. So back home in Egypt, she was out, I believe the story goes, she was out and she was playing out on the street, and which is normal in Egypt. Like, it's not like America where there's little to no kids anymore on the street. Like, even back home till this day, there are still a bunch of kids playing on the street, whether that's soccer or whatever. There's a bunch of kids outside. So she was out playing with the rest of the other kids, but she had fell and she started to cry because she scraped her knee. When she looked up, there was the jinn holding out his hand, because it was a male jinn, and jinns, remember, they do have genders, okay? So this one was a male jinn, and he held out his hand and he put it out to her, and she took it. She was 3. She didn't know any better, you guys. So if you ever have a jinn hold out their hand for you, don't take their hand. I think that's obvious, but let me just state it for the simpletons, the mouth breathers out there. Do not take the jinn's hand, because they are going to be with you after that day for the rest of your life, for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? So don't do it. But anyways, she had taken his hand, so ever since that day, he was constantly with her. But this jinn in particular was in love with person R, so it was this weird kind of toxic relationship with a demon, I guess. Very controlling, again, very manipulative. And I have plenty of stories as to what this particular jinn did to persons R's children, to scare them and make them in compliance with their mother, etc. It's pretty creepy. I mean, think about that. Think about your mom having a malevolent being on her side, and let's say that you don't clean your room or you don't listen to her, and all of a sudden this demon pays you a visit like, you better listen to your mother. That would be creepy. Like, I would be the best child ever in the world. Like, I would not be into that. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's get back to the main story. So point is that this jinn was with her for years. Now at this age, back in 1992, 1993, when this particular scene went down, she was already like in her 40s, maybe 30s, 40s, because Egyptians do get married really young. So it's like, I think she was in her 30s or 40s, because when she did pass away eventually, she passed away at a very young age. So like maybe in her 50s. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm going to say in her 30s or 40s, because back then the main characters were at the age of like 21, 22. So maybe she was like in her late 30s, early 40s probably. And they were, yeah, so they were around like 21, 22. The person S, the daughter of person R, who was there and witnessed this entire scene going down, she's like what, maybe 5 or 6, 7 years older than person F. So yeah, just to give you a good sense of the scene. Now, this whole argument moved from the bedroom out into the living room, and it continued for several hours. You know, the badgering, the belittling, the controlling behavior, the psychoticness. Now, the way that person F described how person R looked like, she went from being normal, happy, calm, to this evil and maniacal face that just came over her, and she could just see all of the anger. You know when someone's really angry and you can see it plastered on their face and they just look like a completely different person? Well, this is exactly how that was. So as person F is standing there and taking all of this in, she starts to feel herself getting angrier and angrier. And you know that moment where you have that split second decision of whether or not you're about to like lose it and just go in on this person and just tell them all about themselves because it would feel so good, you know? Or you could easily go the other route and you can play the whole what's the word I'm looking for? You could play the whole like deflection, the releasing of the negative energy. Like, you're not taking it in, you're not taking it personal, you're just gonna let this person get whatever they have to say out, and you're just gonna go about your life and just understand that whatever feeling that they're experiencing right now is really not your fault and you can't really control it in any kind of way. Well, this is exactly the route that person F, this is the exact route that person F took. So they didn't go the way that most of us would have went, and that's given them a piece of their mind. They went the other way. So they stood there, and and person F started to pray, or started making dua. And the one dua that she made was Hizbi Allah wa ni'ma wakil. Okay? Now this is such a strong and powerful dua, because basically in translation what this means is that you're asking God or Allah to avenge you. You're asking God to step in and get what is owed to you. You know, when someone is just like, let's say in a slave kind of mentality, or a slave situation, and that slave has been beaten on, has been brutally hit and physically, emotionally, everything kind of abused, right? And they're to a certain point, or their hands are tied because they don't have any means to get themselves out of that situation, regardless of what Kanye West said. No, I don't believe that they had a choice. And they feel kind of stuck, and they just turn to God and just ask God to, you know, deal with that individual, get them out of their lives, shut them down, stop them, help me, you know, help me, basically, is what it means, right? And, well, she stated that particular dua, that prayer, a certain amount of times. Now, I'm on the fence as to whether or not to tell you guys the exact amount that she made, because it's a really, like, I don't want to say the amount because it's not about the amount itself. The amount of times that she stated it, it was roughly, I'll give you a rough estimate, it was roughly around 50 times that she was standing there. Like, that's how long this argument was going, right? It was about 50 times that she said that particular dua over and over again to herself silently, instead of taking the other route. And out of nowhere, once she hit that 50th, or the last one, imagine the other individual just like, oh, sorry Mia, my dog. Imagine the other individual, person R, just like mad and like just looking around like, oh, I'm gonna yeah, that's exactly what happened. Like, it seemed like to person F that she just got smacked on the head or something, and she just completely stopped dead in her tracks, and she just fell onto the couch, exactly like how I just showed you guys. Just fell onto the couch. And now the creepy part is that when she woke up out of that unconsciousness, she asked person F, like, why would you hit me on my head like that? Person R described that moment like she got banged on the head, like like God himself or the angels themselves came down and was like, that's enough. Like, you know, when you see a toddler misbehaving and act out, they just need a little just to like get their attention because nothing else is working. That's exactly what she said that it felt like. Now person S, remember the daughter that was standing there and witnessing this whole conversation going down? Thank God she was there, because person R would have really believed that person F really did hit her on the head. Like, it seemed so real to her that she felt that force, right? But person S was like, no, she didn't come near you. No. Mother, you are tripping right now. She didn't touch you. And I know this because I'm here. I've been witnessing everything. No, nobody touched you. Nobody came near you. Okay? You better leave her alone. And afterwards, so after all of this went down, they said that, or person F described to me that her whole demeanor of person R completely changed. She became normal again. She was acting like herself again. She let the whole argument go. She was just calm. She sounded like herself, so that manly voice went away. And yeah, like, that's creepy in itself right there. But the not the creepiest, but the miracle that happened in this story was the fact that when person F called up her father back home in Egypt to tell him about what had happened, he asked her, how did you know that you were supposed to say it that many times, the prayer, right? Remember the estimate that I gave you guys? And she said, she was telling her father, like, yeah, no, and all I did was exactly what you told me to do. And I said the dua and I said it this many times, just like how you told me that's what you're supposed to do. And her dad on the phone stopped her dead in her tracks and was like, I've never told you to do that. I've never told you that specific number. How did you know to specifically say it that many times? This is just like unexplainable. You know, have you ever had the feeling of like, I just knew to do it, or like something just told me that that's what I had to do, or just like instinct or tuition? I don't know what you want to call it, but to me, I feel like that was a blessing in itself. God heard her prayers, he responded, and protected her in the end. He shut all of the evilness down real quick. He gave her knowledge that she didn't have at all. Like, how do you explain that? And it's a very specific number. Like, it wasn't like remember, I'm giving you guys an estimate right now. So it wasn't 50. It was a very specific, odd number, like a weird number, okay? It's not a number that would just naturally come to a person's mind, if that's what you guys are going to be thinking. Like, no, it was a very specific number. But let's say that you're put in the same predicament. You're in the same kind of scenario. Somebody's going bad at you, and you start to say the same dua. The only reason why that worked for her is because of her intentions. Her intentions were right. When she was making the dua, with any prayer, with anything that you do, it's all about your intentions. It's like for certain medicines that work for certain people versus others, right? This is not part of this story, but it is a good example. There was a lady who went to a particular sheikh who told him that she had cancer, and she asked for a remedy. He gave it to her. I'm not going to tell you guys what the remedy is because I'm not allowed to, but he gave her this remedy, or told her about it, and he just told her, go to the pharmacy, go ask for it, and take some every single day. So she goes. Now, this particular remedy, if it's not made correctly, like if it's not, how do I just explain it? Like, if it's not cooked right, if it's not, this herb isn't like actually, it could be considered a toxin, which majority of the world believes it's a toxin. So if you take it, you could die from it, right? Unless it's prepared, that's the word I was looking for. Unless it's prepared correctly. So she got the raw form of the remedy that was given to her by the sheikh, and she started taking a bite of it every single day. And then she goes to the doctor. And she finds out, not the doctor, well, yeah, the doctor. And she finds out that she is cancer free, even though she was taking a toxin the entire time, something that every single person can die from. So when she went back to the sheikh, and he asked her, like, you know, how are you? And she told him, like, oh, thank you, alhamdulillah, like, I have healed, I don't have any cancer anymore, and I owe it all to you. And he asked her, okay, well, tell me exactly what did you do? And she told him, I went, I got it, I ate it. She's like, hold up, you ate it? And she was like, yeah, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And he was just amazed and like, mashallah, like, this is exactly what I mean. Like, and he told her the only reason why it worked for you is because your intent. So as you were taking it, you might have not known it was a toxin, but since you made that prayer to Allah and you had the right intentions, Allah made it work only for you. So there are some things in this world that can only work in those moments. And it's all about where your heart is, whether you're a kind, compassionate person, whether you're patient, because all of these things are characteristics of people that God loves, protects, and guides every single day. He will give you knowledge, even if it's something that you've never heard of or thought of or even knew existed. It will just come to you. if you do, stay away from all of the evils, all of the different things in this world that he asks you to stay away from. And the moral of this story is, oh, by the way, you know, person F was beloved by person R later on in life, like on her deathbed, because she, like I said, she had passed away at a younger age than normal. On her deathbed, she refused to speak to anyone, to see anyone, unless person F had came to see her. And right after she seen her and she sat there, she had to apologize, because her whole life, she knew that person F was such a compliant being. She was such a patient and kind soul that she would never disrespect her or say anything rude or mean back to her. So she understood that she took advantage of her entire life. Because when you see people like this, it's very easy to walk all over them. Like, well, they're not going to do anything about it. They're not going to say anything about it. I could treat her any kind of way, right? And she understood, finally, that what she did was maniacal. It was wrong. It was evil in itself, to mentally torture somebody like that. So she didn't die until person F came to see her in the hospital and to give her that peace of mind. Like, and even on her deathbed, person F was very kind to her. She had told her that she had forgiven everything that she has ever done to her, to not worry, and that, you know, there was still love there. So, like, again, mashallah. And yeah, after she seen her that day, she had passed away. She felt peace and comfort enough to finally let herself leave this world and go on to the next. So it's crazy. Crazy, right? No, I shouldn't say crazy. Mashallah is the word. And when you hear this word, when you hear this story and you have the same thought, like, wow, oh my God, or crazy, that's just, no. I want you to exnay those words and replace them with mashallah, which is like giving praise to God's miracles. Like, you're giving credit to Allah. Allah is the one who made that happen. God made that happen. Now, so yeah, the moral of the story is, be kind, be patient, be compassionate, and God will bless you. He will protect you. He will guide you. He will give you knowledge, things that not the normal person is ever going to receive. So, I mean, it's just amazing. So I hope that this story that I told you guys today will inspire you guys to do good, will inspire you guys to stay kind, especially in the most difficult situations where it's so easy to give in. And it might feel rewarding in that moment to give that person your peace of mind, but you're going to be left with, you know, a little bit of regret, a little bit of shame, a little bit of guilt. And it kind of eats away at you, like, oh, I shouldn't have went off on her like that. Especially depending on the relationship between you and that individual. So keep that in mind, you guys. Stay kind, spread love, spread knowledge, and I will see you guys all next time. All right, bye.